this team maxed out. And that's a cool thing because most teams that don't win the Super Bowl don't max out, and only one team wins the Super Bowl every year. Without further ado, let's get to it. Ross in Tampa has been waiting patiently. Ross, you're up first. Appreciate you calling, homie. What you got for us here on this season-ending Misery Monday?
I'll tell you what, Craig, my day got a lot better now that you just called me your homie. My goodness, thanks, man. I wouldn't call it Misery Monday, man. I'm going to call it Motivated Monday. Yeah, we got the doors blown off of us, and I feel like the game could have been a lot closer if we just didn't shoot ourselves in the foot. But I don't think there's any fan, except for Shannon Oxenhill, no shade. I don't think there's a single fan out there who doesn't think that we overachieved with all the things that we've done over the off season. And just to say we made it this far with a rookie quarterback and all the pieces around him, and I believe this will probably be the least talented supporting cast we'll ever have. There's, like, no way that we're, like, not ginned. I mean, yes, we wanted to be in the Super Bowl for sure. We made it this far. Let's go a little further. But there's, like, no way. I'm not disappointed anymore. I was mad in the moment when it happened. My wife's over here laughing her butt off with the whole Frankie Louvu fiasco, and I'm just looking over at her with the side eye like, can you be quiet? And that type of stuff. But, man, I'm so proud of this organization. I'm so proud of everybody from the owner all the way down to the practice squad players. And I just feel like if we can just maintain the camaraderie in-house on the field, man, it's only up from here, man, for sure. Yeah, Craig, thank you for taking my call, buddy. I'm looking forward to this offseason, man, seriously.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one, and it's really going to be fun, Ross, because we get to see what Adam Peters can do and how Matty can make Shannon Oxenhill again. And I for one, I'm excited about that. Thanks, Ross. But Shannon Oxenhill definitely thinks they overachieved because he thought they were going to be booty. Although, I guess, on the Shannon Oxenhill front, Anthony, Jahan Dotson did make the Super Bowl. So you want to know who won the Jahan Dotson trade? Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't really do a whole lot to help him get there. But
Nate Gates is there as well.
They can get rings. There's a Rivera. Does Rivera get a ring from the Eagles? That ain't right. 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. Let's go to Mutu. Mutu, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, Craig. Yeah, I'm not going to beat myself up over this loss as lopsided as it's been, man. Because one of the things going into this game that we know we had to do was play how we've been playing. Pretty much clean football. So I felt like this game, believe it or not, we were Detroit and Philly were us.
Yeah.
No,
you're not wrong on that.
We just kept, every time we're trying to go forward, we turn the ball over. But part of it, too, man, the players got to be more alert. When you're going up against the number one defense, these guys are trying to strip the ball. You got to cover it up. The other thing is, too, Zach Ertz, we got to re-sign him. He's definitely showing he's a big game performer. And before he signed with us, I know he's getting up there in age. I don't think he had played for like a year and a half, right? He was recovering from an injury. So I think he's still got a lot left in the tank. My issue, though, is with the defense. To make it to the Super Bowl, most teams have a top-flight defense. And our defense just got exposed, man, because though we're turning the ball over, we couldn't make a stop. I have a problem with our tackling. We need to get dudes that know how to fill gaps and know how to tackle. That's fundamentals. I'm going to blame the coaches for this, too. I mean, obviously the players. But how many times any running back, it don't matter who, running through 2, 3, 4 hour players' arms, man. I was at a lounge watching the game with my Sean Taylor 21 jersey on. Dude, I ain't never missed him on the field like yesterday. I'm telling you.
Mutu, I got to keep it rolling. I think you brought up a bunch of good points. I'm going to respond to all of them, I promise. But I appreciate the call. We just got a bunch of them that we're getting to. Great call as always. Let me go in reverse. The Commanders' defense was a top 5 tackling team in the NFL this year. I know they didn't look like it yesterday, and how they calculate those stats I think is interesting because I think at times the Commanders, their inability to finish plays in the backfield, for instance, probably don't go down as missed tackles. And in fact, they go down as pressures. sometimes, and it's like you get one hand on the quarterback, but you can't quite wrap him up. And it's like, oh, he's just out of his grasp. That's not really a missed tackle, as opposed to like Saquon Barkley breaking free from Quan Martin and Jeremy Chin. Those are obviously both missed tackles. And I'm not telling you they tackled well yesterday, but there was a bunch of stuff going into the Tampa game about their missed tackle rate because Bucky Irving had forced more missed tackles than any back in the league. And the Commanders are a top 5 tackling team. They're actually very good at it. They were bad in week 1. They cleaned it up, and they were basically good until last week. So if you think they're bad, go watch other teams try to tackle. And obviously it's going to be worse because there's 28 teams that would rather be the Commanders, if they're top 5. So I think that's probably worth pointing out. Ertz, yes, totally agreed. I would bring him back. I think his clutchness in the red zone, third down, that's what they wanted out of him this year, and he was so much more than that. And if he's going to continue to help Jaden, I'm here for it. And then about players being more alert, I generally think they were good this year in a lot of those regards. And I think it's important for us to remember when we talk about all of this stuff. They just lost the NFC Championship game. They're one of the final 4 teams remaining. And so the idea of like blaming coaches or whatever, like blame's not the right word. Like they topped out. They lost to a significantly better team. The coaches got everything you could ever ask for out of this group of players. They need some better players in spots, but I don't think anyone looks at Adam Peters and is like, oh, you didn't do enough. He did everything he possibly could. Like, who was the guy that you wanted them to sign that they didn't sign? And I'm sure that I'll get a couple of names where I've told other people that dude wasn't coming here. And the thing is, some of those guys, like say, oh, go get Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry wanted to go compete for a championship. Ironically, the team that he signed with lost 1 round earlier than the team that he could have signed with a couple miles down the road. If I don't think Washington was looking to make that kind of splash, but they could have. But Derrick Henry and nobody else thought Washington was going to be great this year. This offseason, if there's a Derrick Henry type available, which there aren't because it's Derrick Henry and Saquon and like Bijan Robinson and maybe one other back that I'm forgetting, but like that caliber of player just doesn't exist in mass. But like the best players on the market are going to want to come to Washington now because they've seen proof of product. They've seen Jaden Daniels be Jaden Daniels. They've seen how guys rave about being here. They're going to talk to Terry and all these guys at the Pro Bowl, and they're going to be like, what was it like? And they'll be like, it was the best year of my career, and guys are going to want to be a part of it. So I think that saying I blame someone for anything that happens on a macro level is not really picking the right word. Because unless you're talking about Ron Rivera and the previous administration and the previous ownership for leaving what was left in the cupboard. But this team maxed out. And that's a cool thing because most teams that don't win the Super Bowl don't max out, and only one team wins the Super Bowl every year. So grateful for that from this seat. And I know a lot of you are as well. Kelly, thanks for holding. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Craig, hey.
What's going on,
thanks for the call, man. Hey, man, yesterday was a microcosm of the season. You know, if we go back 20 weeks, we had 2 questions. Is the rookie quarterback legit? And then can we build a character, an identity to the team? And so fast forward 20 weeks, I think we checked both of those affirmative because the rookie was dealing in the first. In the game, he was ready. You know, the moment wasn't too big for him. As a matter of fact, when we pulled that game within 14-12, he just kept responding to what Baltimore was doing. I mean, what the Eagles were doing. I was like, oh, okay, this kid is really. I mean, I knew he was legit, but he's legit on a big stage. Unfortunately, you know, the turnovers are just a gut punch, and then they just exacerbate every other thing after that, penalties and stuff like that. But it would have just been neat to see them play a clean game turnover-wise. Because physicality and all that's going to happen in that kind of game. But if they just had 1 or 2 less turnovers, it would just been interesting to see if we can get that to a 1-score game, kind of how game flow and all that stuff changes. But
Well, and
Hey,
also
I'm
what
proud of the
happens
team,
to
man.
Philly when they get squeezed because Philly
Exactly.
is only
You drove it,
trailed
yep.
yeah for like 5 minutes since week 16 when the Commanders beat them, and they trailed for 18 seconds in this game. So they never felt that pressure.
Yeah. So I'm pleased, man. You know, like I said, it's best times or worst of times. Best is you get a core players to experience the pain of losing at that level. But next year, Jaden will have all the rookies' ears, and he'll have even more of a command of the locker room. And he just will have, if you saw him in that press conference after the game, first time we heard him curse publicly like that, first time seen a kid cry, it reminded me so much of Jordan have to press through that bubble against Detroit Pistons year after year until he just got through. So, we got a winner in him, and it was a great season.
Kelly, great call. Appreciate it. I'm glad you brought up that press conference because I thought the same thing about Jaden, where I was like, we haven't seen him like this. And he hates losing. We've known that. But he's so good at when there's another game to get to, just keeping it here. He's like, there's like a quiet confidence about it. But at the end of a season, there's no point. You can let it go. And he let it go. And I think that's healthy. I think that's good. This is a very well-adjusted, well-regulated human being. And that is going to help him sustain over the long term. And there's a fire deep within him that is going to not only burn for him, but I'm sure he's going to go light a couple fires under some other guys too. And he's going to share his flame with others this offseason. He'll invite guys to work out in California or wherever else. And I would keep as much of the infrastructure around him as you possibly can. And thank God the way that this coaching hiring has gone. There's still a chance that some guys get poached, but the biggest pieces look like they're going to stay in place. Let's go to Mill. Mill, thanks for calling. You are on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, Craig. I ain't gonna hold you long because I know you got the other guy coming up. But I just wanted to make a couple of key points. I'm really happy about the season and how it turned out. Like I said, I'll agree with one of the callers. From the top down, it's already a success. I didn't think we was gonna get this far, but at the same time, we kept winning. I just wanted to keep the spirit up. Every time y'all play that song at 4:00, I'm so happy. Being in my 30s, this was the first time ever like feeling like this, and seeing them win. And at the same time, I would say piggyback just a couple of comments you said. I mean, a lot of things could have went right, yesterday in the game. Terry could have got the ball early, all of this and that. But, give credit where credit's due with the Eagles. And to be honest, they really feel like I really feel like they're really our rivals more than the Cowboys. I mean, hey, the Cowboys didn't make the division championship, but we did, so we can literally get happy about that. And at the same time, I know JD is down right now, but at the same time, I really think he did a magnificent he did his thing this season, and for a rookie to kind of, get there, and at the same time, I just really think we have a lot in store, and AP and DQ all off season. It's going to be a lot of changes, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to it. And it was a great season, man. So thank you so much for taking my call, and hell to the Commanders, man. Great season, man. Thanks.
I appreciate that. And I love that perspective, too, of someone in their 30s saying, like, hey, this is the first time I've ever gotten to experience this, because the reality is, as time goes on, that's true for more and more and more and more and more people. And I know there's a lot of longtime folks listening that remember the 90s and the heydays at RFK and all that kind of stuff, or the heyday at RFK. But you gotta understand, if that's you, that there's a lot of people that are much more in my age bracket that have literally never had this team be good in their entire lives. And to get to experience this is amazing. It makes, I think, a lot of folks understand why y'all are so passionate about those teams from the Gibbs years, Gibbs 1.0. And hopefully there's some Lombardi trophies to follow with JD at the helm. Also, on the Cowboys point, Tress Way now has more career passing yards in the NFC Championship game than Dak Prescott. Just, throwing that out there. Let's wrap things up. Mark, I got about 30 seconds for you. Hate to keep it short, but we got DQ and Adam Peters up next. So, Mark, real quick, wrap us up here.
Hi, Craig. It's a pleasure as usual. I'm one of them old timers that you mentioned. I had the privilege of all 4 Super Bowl appearances, and I'm gonna say that. So I'm just, this whole thing is so positive. I think turnovers cost us the game, but even so, I think it was primarily we had gone through the first 2 turnovers. The last one, the Eckler thing, kind of killed us. We couldn't really recuperate. But what I'd like to ask you is this. We've got the 30th ranked run defense. Now, from our personnel, I don't see it. We've got 2 above-average D tackles. We've got Wagner and Luvu. Is it the scheme or is it the players?
So,
okay.
Yeah, Mark, I appreciate the call. I'm going to let you hang up and listen here because we got to run. But it is a great question and one of my great hypotheses for this offseason. Because realistically, I literally was on the phone with Logan driving in talking about this. And it's something we're going to look at on film this week. And then we're going to do a much deeper dive during the season. Because I do think Allen and Payne don't play the run great. They played it kind of great 1 year under Rivera, but mostly have not been great run players in their career. They both got paid because of what they can do as pass rushers. So the D-tackle thing's a little underrated. I think some of the edge players that they signed are not great run players either. At the very least, they're very hit-or-miss run players. Bobby's amazing, but Luvu's not a great run player. He's a high-risk, high-reward run player. Not always clean in his gap, but if he hits it right, he'll obviously fire and make a tackle for loss. But this is the second straight year that Dan Quinn has been run out of the playoffs. It was the Packers with the Cowboys last year, and then obviously this Eagles team. But those are also 2 great rushing offenses. So is there something to this? Or is there something more, or is it like, no, this is smart and it's personnel? But I also think it's like, they make some choices defensively to not give up explosive plays, and they were successful in that part, and that's part of it. So the answer is it's both. It's always going to be both. It's some element of scheme, some element of players. Just how much of each is a huge project that we're going to embark on this offseason, we as in me and Logan. And I look forward to answering that question for you guys because I think it's obviously more than fair. When we get back here on the Team 980, Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, live from the podium in Ashburn.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.